Hello all, Marty with you again from Warehouse and Operations as a Career. It always makes us feel good to wrap up another week, doesn't it? And I guess for many of us, it's a holiday week as it's Thanksgiving here in the States. In any event, the week's coming to a close and I hope we've all had a safe and productive one. You know, last week on two separate occasions, the topic of general labor came up and I'd like to talk about it just a little bit more today. The term general labor is really a pretty broad term and encompasses a lot of different tasks in the warehouse and transportation fields, I guess, but I think there's some confusion, at least in my opinion, of what general labor jobs are. Last week I was asked about the difficulty of finding candidates for general labor positions. In my experience, general labor work is really readily available, as well as there's usually plenty of people to work those positions. When I think of general labor positions, I'm seeing a task that doesn't really require any type of machine operation or equipment usage maybe. The way I've always thought is that if you're trained on a particular machine, you'd be a machine operator, or if you're operating a piece of warehouse equipment, then you're an equipment operator. With both of these examples, there's some training involved. You can't just walk up to a machine, hit a green button, and your job's done. I mean, we have to know what that button operates, why the machine runs as it does, and what it's really accomplishing. I bet since it's electric, gas, or fueled, in some way, there's going to be some sort of safety training involved also. And of course, the same goes for any equipment as well. The way I view it is, even if we're using a hand truck or dolly, there ought to have been some, time spent with us on training for its proper use. I know of one facility that boxes and bags food products. A general labor task, and there's a person that reaches out and grabs a 40-pound bag of meal or flour and stacks it on a pallet that's right there beside them. They're responsible for the proper tie and high and to make sure it's stacked well, and somebody else comes along and hauls it off with an electric palletjack. It's repetitious and requires someone that can stand for long periods of time, really takes their stacking seriously, and enjoys the workout. This facility considers the palletizer position as an entry-level position and then promotes from within, onward to the palletjack, forklift operators, receivers, etc. And of course, the normal safety procedures are given and reviewed daily. They really teach proper lifting and ergonomics to the new hires, but the job description and hazard analysis for the position is really pretty general. A good general labor position is a great way to break into our field and really start learning the warehouse. My talks last week were focused around unloading or lumping trailers and containers. At this particular building, they unload hundreds of different items, all of which are separated by item and stacked or separated as to fit into a certain slot according to their warehouse maintenance system or their WMS system, with a proper tie and high, etc. As we've learned, a tie is how many cases are on each layer, and high tells us how many layers to stack up, rotating the configuration or reversing it with each layer as to kind of lock the cases together, creating a much sturdier pallet or load. I definitely do not consider this a general labor position. We have to be taught to read the load breakdown sheets, understand the pallet configurations, and really the importance of separating all the products correctly and in the most efficient manner possible. Now, if we're talking loads and loads of trailers and trailers of the same item or product, I'd agree that's much more of a general labor task. You can take the cases out of the trailer, place them on a pallet in the same configuration every time with somebody else hauling them away for us, and we repeat our task the same way all day long. To me, I'd consider that more of a general labor job. I think we may see more general labor jobs in the production side of warehousing than we do in the distribution, but that could just really be my opinion. I think the construction industry probably has a lot of general labor duties. I myself know very little about the different construction positions, but I think there could be a whole lot of positions we could learn that's around us, and it'd be a good solid industry to be in as well. Actually, during the winter months, I see a lot of construction experience looking for warehouse work, and to be honest, in many instances, they're really great hires in wanting to learn and work. I kind of got off topic again. Where was I? Oh, one of the conversations that brought up today's topic was a young recruit had asked me what I thought of an unloading job. He didn't have a lot of warehousing experience per se, but had worked for a grocery store for about 3 months, stocking their shelves at night, and for a lumber yard, I believe it was, for about 5 months. He had applied for a lumping or unloading position and was told he wasn't really qualified for that job and that they did not have any general labor positions open right now. He had felt that unloading trailers was a general labor job and stopped me outside to ask what skills was needed to unload freight. Of course, I'm sure he really just wanted to vent to someone, and I'm certain that he didn't he didn't like my thoughts on the subject either, but I think he parted ways that afternoon with a bit more understanding than he'd planned on. You all know or will know if you've listened to all of our shows that I'm really very passionate about our tasks and jobs, and I believe a general labor position is a great job to lead us into any direction that we might desire within operations. A good entry-level or general labor position can expose us to production, productivity, and how a warehouse really runs and distributes goods, and can provide us exposure to equipment usage and the many different positions that we can reach for, become proficient at, and learn to really be the best of the best at. You know how I love self-education and looking things up, so I cruised on over to Answers.com to see how far off the page that I was. Answers.com says general labor is another term for unskilled labor, and you will be doing tasks that need little to no training. So I guess I'm not that far off with my thoughts, really. General labor positions, or in my opinion, a few tasks that I see listed on recruiting groups, things like social media and advertisements for positions. Some of those are stackers. Remember the palletizer position that we spoke about a little earlier? And I see a lot of stockers too. Whenever I see stockers, I think of grocery stores and big box stores, things like that. Sorters is another one I see a lot of. Separating items on conveyors, and I think that could be an example. Packers, I think this could mean like closing the boxes or cases after production has filled them. You see quite a bit of assembly workers, usually light assembly, maybe placing A and B together. I think anything more than that probably shouldn't really be considered general labor. I saw one just this week, and I was wondering what it was as a wrapper. Probably something like shrink wrapping the pallets after selection has stacked them, and really before the loaders run them onto the trailer. That's what kind of came to my mind. I think we can get the ideal of general labor. Not menial. The task has to get done, but no involved or specific training or operational experiences may be needed. It's true, general labor doesn't usually start out paying all that great, but hey, we're learning something and we have to get our foot in the door. We've spoken before about how our first objective is to get hired on, perform our task well, and start learning all the other jobs around us, or the jobs that touches ours, and making sure we communicate to our bosses that we want more duties and more responsibilities. If we're changing jobs or even industries, we should do a little research on the company that's placed the ad for our general labor opening. A lot of times we can figure out what the general labor position may entail and where it could lead us within the company. A couple of quick examples. I myself answered an ad for a general labor loader position. I applied, got hired on, and like on night one, I started looking around at equipment operators, order selectors, inventory control people, the lead positions, and a couple of supervisors positions, and something like 26 years later left that company as VP of operations. Another good example, I know a really good man hired on as a maintenance man for a general labor job of changing air filters in the air systems and light bulbs throughout the facility. And he was actually hired through a staffing agency. And now something like 12 years later, he is running the safety department for that very facility and has been with the company for something like 10 years. If we're looking for work, even if we're coming from another industry, try and not get hung up with the general labor word or general labor position. It may not pay what we're looking for or even needing to make, but try and focus on what the company can bring us and what other positions that job could lead us to. I bet in many instances, by working hard and being there for every shift, and of course making sure our managers know we want more, we'd be surprised in just how short of a time we can achieve our goals with both position and pay. Speaking of jobs and postings, be sure to follow us on Twitter, where we retweet as many postings as possible each week, and we'd appreciate a quick like on Facebook too. You can find us on both forms of media with the little @ WHSEANDOPS. And of course, you can catch up on any of those missed episodes on iTunes, Apple Podcast, and Google Play. Shoot, subscribe today and be sure to catch our episode each Thursday. And send us any suggestions and or topics, or even just to say hey with our email, host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com. To close this week's episode, I'd like to leave you on a thought of family and working safe. We've all got others counting on us. Let's take care of them.